Hello again, welcome back. So the Arab Aviation Summit will feature a CEO's panel discussion focused on the strategic challenges facing the aviation industry. This year's panel will be moderated by Mr. Mark Peeling, Managing Editor of Arabian Aerospace and Aviation Week, whom I would like to welcome on stage. Mark is a highly experienced journalist, editor, and publisher who has been covering the global airline and aviation industry for over 30 years. He currently serves as managing editor of Aviation Week Network's Arabian Aerospace and African Aerospace, in addition to Show Business and Time Aerospace TV. He's also the conference director for Aviation Africa and Aviation India. Without further ado, I now invite Mark to introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Chairman Adu. Thank you very much. Thank you for that generous welcome. Thank you, and thank you for your great hospitality again. Everybody says it, but we mean it, right? Morocco's pretty damn cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Abdulla, for the invitation from yourself and AACO to be here to moderate the panel. It's much appreciated as well, so thank you for that honor. Thank you. Let's introduce our panelists. Let's get them up here. Let's get the main event up. First of all, let's bring up the founder and the group CEO of Air Arabia, Mr. Adel Ali. Come on, Adel. The region's wannabe pan-Middle East LCC. Wannabe? Try. His airline was founded in 2003 and is about to reach a fleet of how many aircraft, Adel? By the end of the year, 100. Supply chain permitting. Whatever. Just starting to warm us up here, right? But more importantly, perhaps, you keep making money, don't you? Yeah, you do. I read your, quarterlies. Very good. So that's Adel. Great. Now, secondly, Ghaith. Ghaith, another, huge industry veteran in our industry. A veteran of Emirates. I've heard of Emirates. I know they're pretty good, aren't they? Veteran of Emirates, founding CEO of flydubai back in 2008.
Sorry, I can see my name is here. So I sit here?
Yeah, my name is here. Well, you sit there then. It's not that complicated. They run airlines. I know they're good, right? But flydubai, 2008. Your business model is evolving as the airline's mission evolves under the Dubai umbrella, under the Dubai mission, the Emirates mission, and your fleet will soon top 100 aircraft. Is that right, Ghaith?
Yes, but we are not at 100 yet.
No? How many have you got?
96.
96. 100 by when? Next year? Yes. Supply chain permitting? I'm going to do that a lot. Only, no, one more time. Okay. Thirdly, let's go to another great country. We were there for the Afra AGM last year. Egypt, come on, sir. Captain Ahmed Adel, the chairman and CEO of the EgyptAir holding company. He joined the carrier as a pilot in 1988. I mean, look at him, 1988. Do they take pilots on at the age of 14 in Egypt?
Yes.
Do they? Do they?
16.
16. And he rose through the ranks over his time there to lead the group from 2018 to 2020. And in February this year, he was invited back by the minister, by the government, to lead the carrier, lead the group for a second stint. Welcome. How many aircraft have you got? 67,
going on 100.
Right. Going on 100, right. By the end of the decade, right, something. We've talked about this, great. And fourthly, Ourania, where are you? She's here. I'm going to try and do a family name because it's Greek and she's going to laugh at me for butchering. I'm going to try it once. Georgoutsakou. Right, rubbish. Okay, so Ourania is she's been the managing director of Airlines for Europe, which was pretty new actually, a lobby group formed. She's been the MD for 2.5 years. But your group was formed by this amazing amalgam of low-cost carriers and network carriers. I think Willie, where's Willie again? Where's Willie? You were instrumental in helping form it, right? You and Michael O'Leary. Is Michael in the room? No, I'm joking. He's just posted some pretty stellar financials, actually, for the first 9 months. Not that we want to talk about Europe too much, but we will. But you're an experienced player on the Brussels political circuit. And as we said, you've got folks as diverse as Michael, Karsten Spohr, Ben Smith. And we're going to talk about them as well later as well as your diverse management group. Now, thank you. These great panelists, and we're going to hear from them, of course, during the next hour or so. Thank you. Thank you for being part of the session. So, yes,
Sorry to interrupt. You have in front of you, you have this QR code. Now, you won't see anything on the app. What will happen is that when there is a question to be polled, to be voted on, you will be able to vote on this app. So this is how the polling is going to take place with the audience. So please scan it and keep it ready for whenever the questions are being posed by Mark.
And we're going to do it straight away, aren't we, Abdul? So get your phones out. Who hasn't got a phone? We've all got a phone. So do get your phone out, scan, take a picture of that app. We're going to have a few questions through the whole event. So, and this will help us get the ball rolling in terms of getting the Q&A going, getting us live in the room, Abdul. That's the idea, isn't it? Anybody got it yet? And there's a question on it, right? No? Oh, okay.
There are no active profile at the moment.
How are we doing? Has anybody found the Slido yet? Yes? Thank you. And is it? Okay, so is there a question up there on that Slido? Whoa, okay, so we're going to get in the room. Let's start voting. So this is all about our concerns, your concerns. We're ranking them in the short term. 1 to 2 years is what we thought with the AACO team. Which one is your top ranking concern? What are the choices? How are we doing? Can we put it back on screen? Thank you. Supply chain, oh, that's one. Geopolitical tensions. And that's not a band, by the way. It's not like a rock band. It's an actual issue in the world. I quite like that idea of having a band called Geopolitical Tensions. Ourania's with me. Meeting sustainability regulations. None of the above. So put your hand up if you voted. Let's just see what sort of a quorum we've got. It's fine. We're getting there. How many votes have we got? It says top right, doesn't it, somewhere? I can look down here. 95, that's pretty good. So what are we seeing? What are we seeing? Supply chain. Any reflections, panel? Just who wants to sort of reflect? Is it pretty much what we'd expect? Supply chain number one, probably 40% and growing. Geopolitical tensions, something we're going to talk all about all of these. But we're just trying to get an indication in the room, some direction of travel. None of the above. We might come to those when people might volunteer what those are. Okay, so there we are. We've got some direction of travel. That's pretty to be expected. Let's just dig a little bit deeper into number one. Could we have the next question, please? Here we go. We're going to follow up, obviously, on the supply chain issue. So we're talking about how long we think it's going to take to fix. So the choices are, you've been really mean here, Abdul, with these questions. 5 years. Will it take 5 years? Will it take 10 years? Will it take longer? There are a few pessimists out there. Look. How are we doing? 98, 90, that's pretty good. So the optimists in the room, 50% of you, 49% of you. Oh, that's creeping up, 40%. No, here we are. Ghaith, what do you think about the length of time here? We're going to talk about it in a bit of depth. But let's just your first thought. There's a lot of people thinking it's going to take a long, long time.
I mean, the fact that it is the highest rated problem, it means also a lot of us here don't understand it and maybe not prepare for it. So that's why I think this will be a very wild guess how long it's going to take. But I believe if you are a well-run organization where you can sort of look forward to the future and plan very well, you can make this less of a problem, because now this is what people fear, and that's why people are guessing. So I think the worst problem about it is not knowing how long it will go to take. Worse than that, how long or how to fix it, and what have you prepared your company to deal with it. I feel that is the biggest problem.
Good. Yeah. Adel, do you want to add to that? We'll come into how you manage it a bit later, Ghaith, but thank you for that observation.
Yeah, no, I fully concur with what Ghaith said. I think it's the unknown factor. There seems to be a total ambiguity in the system, and it's a vicious circle where, depending which OEM you talk to, and when we talk about whom, it's the aircraft, it's the engine, it's the APUs, they are thrust reverser and everything, and not just the engine or the airplane. And I mean, the supply chain is a very interesting world that we all learned post-COVID. But what is it? And where is that devil called supply chain that we can fix? That's the bigger worry.
Right. We're going to dig deeper into that, but I just wanted to get some initial observations on that. But let's move on to, let's just observe, let's just see where we finished. 114 of you have voted, 48% say 5 years, 39% say 10, 12% of you think it's going to be even longer. That's a big legacy. That is a big legacy if it takes 10 years or more for this industry. I mean, we'll come on to that later. Okay, let's talk about the geopolitical tensions. Let's frame that discussion first. And we will have questions, as I say, on slide A later on as we go. But we know that the impact is great. It's not new for this region. Of course it isn't. But this year has been particularly tough. There's been lots of things have come in. The war, obviously, the missile attacks, the diversions. We've had lots of it. I just wanted to encapsulate it for each of you, just to say, and I'll ask you to put a dollar number on it as well. What's it cost you? Do you even bother, not bother, because that makes it sound it's trivial. Do you think about it in those terms? Do you get your teams to actually measure the impact as well? So, Captain Adel, what's for EgyptAir?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Royal Air Morocco for a great AGM. You can never say great hospitality enough for them. Going into your question, geopolitical tensions are part of the risks that the industry deals with, especially in the Middle East. We are glad that the last issue got resolved, hoping that it continues and is sustainable. You can prepare by taking some measures, but you can never prepare enough for something that happens where you cannot measure it, how long it's going to take, how far the escalation is going to go. So geopolitical problems are part of the industry that you have to deal with. The industry has proven resilient to a lot of changes that happen in the short term and in the long term. So you just have to, take the bull by the horn when it happens and take some tactical decisions maybe to mitigate the risks.
And what's it going to cost you this year, Captain? I'm going to press you on this because I think, we're businesses at the end of the day, and there's a commercial cost and there's for this risk.
Well, I can tell you business is good. So the cost sometimes, since it did not take a very long time when there was some tensions of I don't want to mention the exact events that happened in the year, but the cost was mitigated because it took a short time. The long term, you adapt to it, and the traffic adapts to it. So you have some drops in traffic for a period of time, and then when they start seeing that the specific parts of cities or the travel that they're going to in, for example, in Egypt, the traffic starts coming back.
So partly mitigated by strong traffic anyway, in that you've seen across the year.
So if you're getting geopolitical tension, you're lucky if it's happening when the business is good. So, you know, you can, the loss is not that big.
Well, the loss is not that big. Okay. Ghaith, you're flickering there. If I see you flicker, that means I'm going to come to you and ask you a question.
No. I think, look, I think by now we should all learn that with all of this tension, there is opportunity. And in the airline business, of course, safety and security is our first concern. So when these things happen, we have to take the utmost measure to protect that part of the business, safety and security. But we learn from all the events, and especially, as you said, we are in our region, starting even from the Iran-Iraq war, you know, whatever happened after that, it is positive. So you have to take advantage of this crisis and plan for the day after and take advantage of that. And I agree with Captain. You know, every time there is a tension, there is usually the traffic will come back and will come back very strong. So if you are prepared for it, then you can take advantage and most likely you can cover most of your cost. But when you are not prepared for it and you don't take advantage of it, this is the problem, because it is part of life that you know that these things are going to happen if you are not prepared for it and if you don't take advantage of it. And alhamdulillah, you know, as so many people have said, that the airline industry, even during COVID, we showed that transportation is such a vital part of our life, and people will travel back and then they will travel even more. So for me, it is something that we cannot control, but we can improve how we manage it. And if we can manage it well enough to take advantage of the opportunity that it will come the day after, that's, I think, what we should focus on.
And how do you rate that's a really good point, thank you. How do you rate your ability to take advantage compared to, say, a few years ago? Do you think you're better at it now?
Absolutely. I mean, we are, I think, very good. You know, in Dubai, for example, everybody remember the flood, when Dubai flooded. And we did very well there because we decided in flydubai to suspend our operation for the next 24 hours. And then we extended it, I think, for another half day. Because realistically speaking, we had, if I remember correctly, 1/3 or even more of our aircraft stuck somewhere with crews. So technically speaking, you cannot operate your schedule the next day. And then people cannot get to the airport. So by taking a brave decision and canceling, and then pulling back your crew, bringing your aircraft back, and restarting the schedule after, let's say, whatever, a day and a half, for example, we noticed that all the people who have canceled, or because we offer people discount, the refund, and all of these things, we noticed that the flight after went up. For example, from if it was 70%, it went up to 85%. So the margin of the money that we made in the next few days covered the cost that we did there, because we took a decision ahead of time that we have to suspend flights. So this is why I think in these events, you have to look at the light in the end of the tunnel and try to plan for the day after. And in my humble experience, the day after is always very good. The sun shines and there is opportunities.
That's a very interesting perspective. And in a way, it's a shame we have to keep practicing it though, right?
A lot.
Adel, come and tell us about Air Arabia. I mean, you're a listed company, so you must have put a number on it. And put that number on it. Are you going to be brave for me?
Of course. I think we're talking here about geopolitical escalation. Well, we've been living with geopolitical issues in the region since the Iranian Revolution, which a lot of people in the room were not born. Right? And we just have one thing after the other. But the escalation that happened, the escalation itself we will manage because most of them were actually short-lived, apart from one or two. And that meant quick management of it and move on. I don't put a number on it, but at this time around, the geopolitical escalation cost for airlines in the region were cheaper than OEM damages and management.
Right.
Right?
Just say that again. Just say that again a bit louder.
The cost of managing the geopolitical, because you know and your customers know that there is an issue. It is cheaper than management of the current OEM inability to give you aircrafts on time, bring your engines back on time, give you your other requirement to fly the airplane, because managing that, the customer and the airport and a lot of authorities tend to blame the airline and fine them for something that's totally, utterly beyond their control. And that's the big cost.
Right.
And what we've noticed, I think, particularly this time, when you're going to go back 20 years, if we had the geopolitical escalation that we had this time, the oil would have been $140, aircraft would have been empty, nobody was staying in the hotels. This time around, airplanes were delayed and probably airspaces were closed for a very short time, but seat factors did not get affected. People paid the fare they needed to pay, and the tourism has not stopped. And that comes from the background that people now are getting used that things do go wrong. They have the ability through technology to know what and where something is going wrong, and very quickly the market tend to come back and move on, and people get back to their own life. I think it's a new time, a new era that we live in, that people are not willing, because of the geopolitical issues. That is now a global phenomenon, and it exists everywhere. Whichever part of the world you look at nowadays, people will continue traveling and saying, look, we will manage our life as long as aircraft are flying and airspaces are open. And that's the change we've seen this time around. Loads were not affected wherever the flight was operating, and people still used to continue with their business normal and stay in hotels.
So you've really seen that change in behavior. You've seen the way that people change. Ourania, just give us an observation from your members. Do they see it the same way? And then talk about the impact, if you would, just to give us that perspective, please.
Yeah, I think I can only agree with what the gentleman has said. What I see in Europe is that the adaptability, the flexibility, the resilience of airlines only improves over time, exactly because of the extra challenges that come along our way. In Europe, this was one extra challenge this year on top of what is already a very complicated situation in Ukraine, which means closure of airspace. Lately, over the past few months, we've seen additional problems in terms of cybersecurity, drones flying over airports and airports being closed for hours on end or days on end. So this really just throws another stone into the lake and makes things even more complicated than they already are. And yet the airlines continue. I mean, in the beginning with the Ukraine situation, Europeans had to really reconsider, some of them, their business model. We've lost about 9% market share in passenger traffic alone between 2019 and 2024 because of the closure of Russian airspace to European carriers. And that means that some airlines have reinvested themselves. So Finnair now moved its business to the other side. The same for Air France-KLM. People need to just work around that. So, and I agree, load factors remain, people still travel, system still ticks along, and hopefully will continue to do so. But it raises an interesting conversation, at least in Europe, around, there's a different sentiment around defense and preparedness and strategic independence, a discussion that we've not had in Europe for a very long time. So it's an interesting political
There's a different nuance, there's a different context.
It's the first time in my 20 plus years of public affairs that I talk about that, when in fact I worked on B2C. It's never come up before.
Right. Captain Adel, do you see in Egypt and or in the markets that you serve, do you see this customer sentiment rebound? Do you see it in from your carrier's perspective? That people are, getting back on the wagon, as it were, or back on the aircraft quickly. They're assessing, as Adel was saying, the market and going, yeah, well, I'm back. I want to keep doing what I do.
Absolutely. The more crisis you go through, the more resilience the resilience level gets higher, the adaptability level becomes faster, and this works. If it works for airlines, it works also for the travelers. So the travelers are willing to travel no matter what, unless it's a really big economical crisis. We have seen with COVID, everybody was expecting the economy to take a turn, and it took a completely different turn. So when it comes to the business of expecting everything precisely, there's a learning curve, and the learning curve gets better and better with more operations, with more crisis. So I think the adaptability time for any crisis becomes shorter and shorter in the industry.
Absolutely. And just from the point of view of your opportunity, as Ghaith was saying, maybe you could start, Ghaith. Just what have you done in terms of getting back into markets fast, that you wanted to, in terms of aircraft availability permitting? But what have you done in the last months of this, this year to say, yeah, this is the opportunity we're going to take, and where have you gone?
I mean, these opportunities, they come and then you see them at the time. But I just wanted to comment on what Adel said about the other problems with the supply chain, and which is a bigger problem. And I think that problem is there because, unfortunately, we are not learning from the same principle we just shared, that we have to look at the problem and then know that there is the end of the light, there is an opportunity, and we should be ready to do it. With COVID, unfortunately, and I've not seen anybody coming out in the whole world deciding how did we mismanage COVID. And I think it comes with the big brother, the governments, because the way they have managed COVID by closing down, closing down the skies, COVID did not stop. Did somebody said now that next time there is, unfortunately, a crisis like this, we will continue to fly so we don't make the same stupid problem? But by stopping this wheel that produce and letting people off and paying them off, okay, and people are not working, now to get that machine back on, this is the problem. And this is why we are suffering from this, because the big brother is not learning from this simple fact that business will come back and we have to be ready for it. So your question, when you said, oh, how do you see, what are the opportunities? There is always opportunities. And if I sit and sort of draw what happened here, how we did this and how we did that, and it always starts with the government. In the United Arab Emirates, we are so blessed by having a leadership that looks after the people, simple needs. Our president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, we said, Tal Umrah, when the problem in COVID happened, he said in Arabic, let shilu ham, meaning to everybody who's living there, don't worry, we have your back covered. We will take care of you. COVID starting 2nd of March, everything was closed. By June 1st, Dubai was open for business. Because what we say in Dubai, the shows must go on. And starting from there, business started coming back. We are in our humble example that you want, in flydubai. We started flying again from June the 1st. And by November 2020, we were cash positive. We did not take a penny from the government because Dubai was working. And we got back into business, and the year after we made record profit because it started with Big Brother, the government. So this is the best example I can give.
Yes. Well, what was the Big Brother like in Egypt, Captain Adel?
Well, the government was very supportive. We went...
Ghaith, sorry, by the way, thank you very much.
No problem.
Sorry, Captain.
We went through a very tough time, like everybody else, but in EgyptAir, we did not lay off any of our employees. We preserved the workforce that we had. Of course, we took some mitigations when it came to pay. We cut some cost. And afterwards, we came out on the other end much stronger, and I think it was the right decision. We got a lot of support from the government when it came to supporting us financially during this period. So right now we are back, we are healthy, and we are very optimistic about the near future.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're still talking about COVID, and it's 2025, but we know it's a reflection. Obviously, it becomes a strategic imperative how you pull out of that and how you pull up and continue on. Okay, let's. Adel, did you want to comment? I mean, again, if you flicker, I'm going there.
I think what I must say is as Ghaith said, the Big Brother was great, and our big neighbor and big brother Dubai was so good because they paved the road for us. They did it on the 1st of June. We flew 2nd of June following them. So it worked. But I think times have changed, right? Times have changed. That at the moment, the demand is far exceeding the supplies of seats available for flying anywhere. Hence, everybody enjoying the high seat factor, good yield. And that's probably the supply chain is, one can claim, is a double-edged sword for the industry. Maybe that part of it is working. Sad, but it is, because people want to travel. The air travel is growing. And the way, years back, you had to go to the market and tell them, I'm doing this, to answer the question, Mark, I'm doing this to stimulate the market. Today, as soon as you actually open up, the technology allows you to reach every customer and every non-customer who have a dream of traveling in their bedroom on the telephone to say, I'm doing this tomorrow, and the after tomorrow they fly. People do not plan, they prepare to fly within 24 hours. It's what Ghaith said, we need to enable them to fly. And COVID was a good example, although a few years ago. But this is what happened at the geopolitical crisis this time, where we saw it was actually so well managed. Particular corridors were closed, not everywhere. If we compare that to the Gulf War when we had back in the 90s, almost the whole Middle East stopped flying, planned to stop flying. This time, nothing stopped.
Adel, can I just correct you? We are at Emirates during that time. We did not stop flying. We used to go around the Arabian Peninsula, stop in Egypt to go to London.
Yeah.
And that's where Dubai become at that time the hub for all the people who travel to the Gulf. They came via Emirates flight through London, because we never stopped that, sorry.
True, but most of the industry stopped, and some of the west going east, east going west, used different routes not to avoid it. This time around, they found alternative corridors. Some of it meant that you fly a couple of hours longer, but it never stopped.
And I totally agree there. And especially, I mean, for example, with Iran, during the last crisis, they opened the airways in, I think, hours or days. That was never the case before, for example.
Yeah, so it's about enabling people to fly. Don't close it, don't block it. And it's so good nowadays because you can communicate with the customers so fast. Whatever you put on your website, they see it. You can chit-chat with them on the chat box. So I think you can stimulate the market overnight and get back to normal operation if you have the ability to do so.
Your problem will not be a problem if, for example, overflying Russia were allowed. Other countries do fly. And that's why, sometimes the government, they make decision, it's the right decision, but sometimes these decisions are taken and create problem for us.
Absolutely, I can only agree. And we have 27 big brothers in Europe, so it's a joy to get all of them to agree, and then hoopla.
I thought you have a union.
Exactly, a union of big brothers. Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you for those points. Look, let's move the topic on. We can refer to it as we go, Now, we had the poll, we talked about supply chain, and I know you just want to get back into it, and most of the audience does as well, but I think it's all about observing first. I mean, that's when Willie referred to the report and the cost, and it's an incredible number, and it's intensely infuriating. It's infuriating for the suppliers, I'm sure they will tell us, but it's infuriating for you as business leaders with, where your production capacity, which is promised to you, either is not there, the aircraft aren't coming, but on top of that, of course, you've got the cost side, the MRO costs that you've got, the aftermarket supply, etc., the lease costs that have changed post-COVID. These are not deltas that are going the way, they're not going down, they're all going up big style for you. So I think my question really is, we can moan about it. We know from the poll that it's going to take, in your view, pretty long time to fix being a movable scale. But in terms of your business development, just maybe each of you could just say, what does it cost you? Not in terms of a dollar number, but what's it cost you in terms of your growth plan and your ability? Where would you have been otherwise? But what's it cost you? Captain Adel, what do you...
Well, there are two sides of this story. On one end, I will talk about EgyptAir. We did not receive our planes in time, but thankfully we were in a discussion with both manufacturers and we're getting our new fleet on time. But this had sort of a positive effect that our cost went down with the high demand. So our aircrafts are full. But it hinders you in the growth to recapture, available maybe revenue in some areas, to up the frequencies to some points, to open new routes. And of course, that also costs you negatively on the other side. The supply chain problem, with the guess of the 1 to 5 years, might change, on a dime, like they say. If there's a slowdown in demand, if there's a slowdown in traffic, supply chain is going to, catch up. So the opposite of what happened with COVID. So you can never guess. You need to adapt. You need to be resilient. You need to have enough tactical decisions that you can take, like extending the life of some of the aircraft, refurbishing some of the aircrafts, to make its life longer in the fleet. So you will have to deal with it and moan about it also.
Okay. Ghaith, I think I take this point about refurbishing aircraft because everybody's doing it because you've got no choice if you want to sustain the size of your fleet. I mean, every airline, Sam is doing it at Royal Jordanian, you're doing it, Emirates is doing it, Saudi is doing it. Everybody's doing it because you have to. But what's that sort of same question really? What does it cost you in terms of your business development, or have you managed to smooth it through?
I mean, as far as cost is concerned, we are lucky because the fuel prices are down. I mean, the fuel prices at below 70 is a dream for us. So that is helping us. And also, I think the yield are as high as I ever seen them. So that is going to our advantage. The one that you worry about or you concern about is these opportunities missed. Because there is a hyper demand out there that you want to operate more flights, you cannot operate it. And for me, that is priceless. This is how it's
priceless.
I mean, because how much opportunity that are there. I mean, we would have been, we grew, let's say, 15% or about like that this year. We could have grown by 25%. So that extra business that you could have had, and at this price, at this cost, it's a dream that you cannot put a price to it. It's so good. Hopefully, the airline business will continue to play even a stronger part in the future. And when we get more aircraft, we will be operating, and the environment will be as good as now. Yeah.
So it's kind of, if you are able to grab some growth more than your competitor, you've just got to be better than your competitor than what you can do. I mean, I'm not explaining that very well because you're grimacing at me, but I mean, I'm just trying to say, you know, if that lost opportunity, if you can get hold of some aircraft, if you can just keep some more of the aircraft in the fleet, or you can get the turn time somehow is in your favor, or you're able to get Capt to renew your leases on 777s, you know, whatever you can do, you have to do to make your advantage count at this time. That's a bit of a ramble, but is that what you've been able to do?
No, yes, I mean, we try to do this all the time. I mean, every opportunity, extend, we operate, I mean, our utilization is close to 14 plus per hour, which is one of the highest in the industry. But like, that's, you do your best, but that's not good enough because you lost so much opportunity. So rather than the cost of this, is the opportunity lost. That's what I'm trying to say.
I totally agree, because we're in the case, you know the parable about the guy and the horse, you know, the Chinese one. You know, your son rides the horses very well. You're a very lucky guy. And then we will see, then he breaks his foot, you know, and then you say you're unlucky because he broke his foot. And then war comes out, he doesn't get called to war. It's the same thing. We are now reading, you know, always, hindsight is always 2020. We are talking about the situation now. So with the supply chain problem, if the business slow down, the supply chain is going to catch up. If you have demand and high revenue to capture and you don't have enough aircrafts, it's going to be a problem. So I think the industry has learned enough that adaptability is the most important thing. What you do in the moment is very important on how the near foreseeable future's outcome is going to be.
Thank you. Adel, just this opportunity cost thought. I mean, you brought in all these CEOs early. You told me this when we chatted beforehand. You know, it's not because you're a magician. It's just that you thought there was going to be opportunity. Has Air Arabia managed to secure what you hoped out of this period?
I think we brought the CEOs back because we realized that old is gold, because the new ones are not doing what they're supposed to do. Right? So we saw 2018 when we took the delivery of our super engines, neos, and all that sort of thing. We saw things were cracking down. So we said, okay, let's not take any more of those. Let's go and find in the market and bring 35 CEOs. At least they fly. Right. Now, thanks God, the oil price is good. It's been good since. What just Ghaith said. So having CEOs, paying more for the fuel, so the fuel saving benefits that you get versus NEOs, it's compensated with the actual flying and having integrity of operation. What you lose is the growth opportunities. We would have gone to many more airports, increased much more frequencies and so on, which we had to postpone. And the biggest challenge are the two things I see it from our experience. One is total inability to plan the future. Regardless what strategies you have in the company, you can only plan for 2-3 months ahead. Right? So that is gone. Two is because of the domino effect of the engine issues. It's not just the engine needs to go to the shop, but the shops are now overwhelmed. They give you your engine instead of 90 days after 356, 360 days. And that's then creates shortage of engine in the market and with everybody, including the OEM themselves. As a result of this, basically, cost of maintenance is up, and a lot of airlines I know had to ground airplanes because they didn't get their engines back on time. And therefore, you're always operating very safe on what you have. And therefore, you're not taking the opportunity to grow the business for the future. Now, it's working today, and I think both Willie and Abdul articulated about it very well in their presentation. But I think if we get into a situation with no growth, if we had a 2% yield down in the industry, or a 10% oil increase, that's a possibility, a lot of airlines will be back to where they were a few years ago, of very, very low margin, or running a loss. And that's the big threat that the industry is facing today.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you, Adel. Does anybody want to comment from the floor about, we will move on from this in a second, but does anybody want to comment on the floor on the supply chain issue? I know Willie's sitting over there. I might ask him a question in a minute. You're already there, Willie. Thank you. Please. Willie Walsh.
Just one point I would like to make, and my apologies for picking on GE Aerospace, but
they're big boys.
But I like to pick on somebody. If you look at GE Aerospace financial results for the first 9 months of this year, their operating margin is 27.6%.
Has any airline ever made an operating margin of 27.6, Willie?
Not that I can find.
Right.
So, you know, when we talk about the supply chain issues and the impact on our industry, it's not having a corresponding impact on the people who are supplying our industry. In fact, their margins are increasing. And it's not just GE Aerospace. You know, if we were to look at others, Honeywell, operating margin first 9 months of this year, 26%. So, you know, this is, for me, an indication of there's something seriously wrong here. And, you know, while airlines are working hard, and I agree with everything the panel has said, you know, we're not seeing a corresponding pain being borne by the suppliers who are, I think, who are making excess profits on the back of this supply chain issue.
So the implication there, Willie, is that they're not investing hard enough, fast enough in, especially the aftermarket maybe, or what?
But they're putting their prices up. You know, they've been using
escalation.
Tariffs, for example, as an excuse to raise their prices. They're, you know, talking about escalation that's way in excess of inflation. And, okay, you can give them credit, you know, well done, guys. But, you know, an operating margin of 27.6% when we're estimating operating margins for the industry this year 6.7%. So there's a big disconnect, and this is why it's important to remember we're not all in the same industry. You know, the airline industry is not the same as the wider aviation industry, and I think there is questions that need to be asked in relation to what's happening.
I totally agree, by the way, and this problem is going to be ahead of us even more, because they are increasing their prices. It's a monopoly, and they know that they can get away with it because there is no other options. You know, you cannot say, for example, you have an engine on the aircraft, say, tomorrow I'm going to change it, like you change your shoes. And the problem is they control the spare parts. And then, you know, with the spare parts now, and with the issue is that they want to charge you even more for spare parts, they are hedging in the future so that they can make a lot of money and squeeze the airline that actually put the eggs, the golden eggs. And so it's a big problem for the future.
And actually, just to support that point, 75% of GE Aerospace revenues comes from services. You know, we think of them as a manufacturing company, but 75% of their revenues.
And that would be the same for Rolls-Royce and Pratt as well. Yeah. Thank you, Willie. Adel.
I think, you know, since Willie, thank you, he opened a discussion of an hour of honesty for the room. So what the feeling you get as an airline CEO, and hopefully some of them will agree with me, is today when you talk to your suppliers, so if I buy a rubbishy car, but if I buy it new from a showroom, and I go back to them and say it's not working, they do something about it. But you pay a huge amount of money to get an aircraft that flies. And you go back to whichever part of that aircraft is not working and say, look, it's a brand new thing. I mean, I had an example of 48 hours after delivery, I had to do an engine change on an aircraft for another aircraft to fly. Robbing
a brand new aircraft.
2 days old.
2 days old.
Right? I had to swap engines. And I think the feeling of the CEOs is every time you talk to any OEMs at the moment, and I know a few of them are in the room and apologize for being direct, but it's an hour of honesty, so let's be honest, right? It's that rather than solving your problem, they try to sell you something. And it's don't sell me, fix my issues. And that does not come up. And sometimes you feel actually sorry for the representative of OEMs because their hands are tied. Most of them are part of mega companies. They're trying to do their job. But the issues are much bigger. And then the numbers that just Willie said, to have a 28 and 29% or 27% margins on your business, and then come and say, I want more, but I have a supply chain problem. That's where you sort of, it tastes very sour.
Sticks in the throat a bit.
It tastes very sour.
I think we might need a CEO support group here, and Samer's going to join it right now. Could you, Samer, do you want to say something too? I mean, we don't want to, we don't want to sort of have a big moany session, but we do want to make the point, right?
Why not?
Oh, okay.
Why not? I mean, this is the opportunity to do that. Because we've been at the back, or the sore end of a very difficult situation over the last few years. As Ghaith said, it's probably, or as also as Adel said, the issue is much more difficult than even COVID, this supply chain issue. COVID was lengthy, but limited. Supply chain now has been going on for at least 4 years, and it's going to be forecast for another 4, 5, 10 years. And that's the problem that we have there. If an airplane is late in delivery, the manufacturer loses the interest on the amount of money that he was going to be receiving during that month or 2 months or 3 months. The leasing company, probably the same thing. The airline itself, when that airplane is not there, loses 4 to 10 times as much revenue loss because that airplane is not there when it's needed. And so the effect of these delays is a multiplier effect as you go down the chain, from the person who caused the delay to the person who's actually has that delay at the end. And this is the problem that we've been facing. And obviously, unfortunately, the manufacturers, starting with the engine manufacturers primarily, but also a lot of suppliers, say contractually you're due to a bit of compensation, and that's the end of it, and the compensation covers a fraction of the pain that you're facing, and they dump the problem squarely back into your hands. Take it or leave it. We're 2 manufacturers in the globe, we're 2 engine manufacturers in the globe. Suck it.
Suck it up.
Yep. And that's it.
Thank you, Samer. Thank you.
Sorry, but
sorry, is that,
it was our shot.
No, look, as you say, this is your forum, and you've got to. Mic's still on, so if you swear, be like you're going to be.
No, I'm off.
I mean,
Let's move to the airports.
Use the microphone. You want to go for the airports now?
Well, I think we talked enough about the OEM. Maybe we talked about more lighter stuff like what airports do. But the very interesting comment about what was said earlier on is not just cost you the revenue, but then you got to compensate 400 and 500 euros to the passengers because you're running your airplane late because somebody did not deliver something to you. And they paid you £100.
Right. Anybody else? Adel?
Just something. I don't have the answer. Okay, how do we get out of this conundrum? Is there a way out? If there isn't a way out, how do we manage it?
Thank you, Abdul.
I mean,
yeah, we can talk about it and moan about it and have a support group about it and cry.
But then, what do we do?
Adel.
I don't think I wish I had the answer. If I did, probably I would be sitting here. I'll be working for one of them and I'll be a billionaire. But I think the starting point could be that the OEMs talk together and talk to the airlines with them collectively and recognize that there is a problem, we all need to solve it. The discussions seem to be very one-to-one with the airline or among themselves. And there's quite a lot of pointing finger at each other when they meet the airline. And you sometimes don't know who to blame apart from supply chain. So that could be a starting point to have a very honest and open conversation with your customers of telling them the problem and be a little more transparent about the solutions.
Thank you. Ourania, did you want to make a point? You've got the microphone in your hand. I'm thinking you want to jump in. Am I right?
Sort of. So I joined aviation 2.5 years ago, and before that I did semiconductors, electronics, chips. And they too have a supply chain problem ever since COVID, but they tend to ramp up way more quickly. So this sector is excruciatingly slow, I find, in moving forward for safety, for all the right reasons possibly, but still excruciatingly slow. And the tariffs debate didn't help what is an already very bad situation. At least it was resolved from a European perspective. But personally, I think the next thing that all this does is make people think who else will join this club. So in my chip days, I know that the Chinese tend to come very quickly and catch up with people, and that kind of conversation is also something to look towards at some point. I think that we might get another player in the room one day, sooner than you thought.
Maybe. The Chinese are mentioned. Building aircraft is a tough game. Building engines, tough game. It's nothing to be taken lightly. I don't think we've got a solution. Have you got a solution, Mr. Adel? You got a solution? No. Okay. Nobody has.
And I would be a billionaire like Adel if I had, so unfortunately it's not the case. But I think disruption would come at one point of time, and there are other players that could jump in, and one of them is Comac.
So who might come in?
We'll see.
China, we talked about. Okay, well, nobody knows. But maybe it's an opportunity, and by the way, if you're Airbus, Boeing, GE, Pratt and Rolls, don't come and beat us all up afterwards. We're just talking about this is a seriously big issue. But I think Willie made a point in his speech, and you've hinted at this before, this legal idea. You've talked about it before. Just give us a tiny thought about, is this a lever, or is it a little sort of veiled threat, Willie, or is it, what's the point?
No, I think it is something that we have to seriously look at. When you ask what is the solution, we examined this at IATA. I wasn't in IATA at the time, but I was at BAIAG. And we examined whether there were legal opportunities to take a competition claim against some of the manufacturers. Could we find any evidence of anti-competitive behavior? So I think this is an area that we do need to look at, and look at seriously. Now, we obviously need to be very careful in how we do that. The last time we did this, we did it in a clean room with the lawyers involved rather than the airlines, because we couldn't share commercial information with one another. But I think it is something that we're seriously looking at again from an IATA point of view, to see if there's something we can do on that front. The last time we did it, there was some interest at a European level to pursue it, but not sufficient appetite to take a full investigation.
Right.
I would like to think, given the evidence we have now, and we clearly have much more evidence today, I would like to think that this is something that the competition regulators could look at. So we're pursuing it. We'll continue to see if there's an opportunity there, and we'll let the industry know as soon as we have something to progress on.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you for that update. But for the time being, it looks like maybe more transparency, maybe more openness in the discussion. Adel, as you were saying, does that resonate with the rest of the panel? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Okay, supply chain. Well, it's going to be an issue we're not going to stop talking about. Maybe for 10 years we'll be talking about it more. But if it's there, we've got to solve it as an industry. And I know that everybody's working amazingly hard, especially and I don't want to mention specific companies, but toilets are really tough, right? They can't get the right toilets fast enough. It's a crazy world, isn't it? Right, let's go into Slido again. We're going to change tack a little bit. Let's change tack to another challenge, and Abdul's favorite topic of the environment, sustainability. So it is complex, obviously, complex issue, but let's try and weave our way through it and get some of the big answers. So let's go back to Slido and get the first question up. So we're going to switch to sustainability, the Decarbonisation Challenge 2050. What's the first question? Here it is. So if you've got your phones ready. So what's more important, complying or being perceived by customers as environmentally responsible? What do we think? What are people thinking? We've just got to comply, or we've got to walk the talk. So pretty much complying seems to be the most important area. Well, that's okay, because that's what we're doing at the moment, complying. I think the second part refers to, are we actually serious, or are we playing lip service to being environmental in whatever part of the world we are in? Let's flip it to the next question, which is question 4, obviously. And this comes back to Abdul's point about patchworks, about how the compliance, how the regulations are being developed globally, and we had some good explanations, I thought, from the Amadeus and CETA team there talking about explaining it. But based on that answer previously, what is your view on the patchwork? Would it be impossible to handle that patchwork of regulatory requirements? Impossible is a big word. Or if you prefer a global scheme, I can manage compliance with various ones. So it's this kind of compliance versus are we just doing it, playing lip service to it, versus how you actually manage it. Captain Adel, what's your sort of observation? What do we get? It's about 50-50 on that one. Everybody would prefer a global scheme, but it doesn't exist. Well, it does exist, sorry, it exists, but it's being eroded, interfered with, I don't know the right words, but we're getting lots of different schemes globally. There'll be more. So, Captain Adel, what's your observation initially onto how EgyptAir thinks about this?
Well, first of all, I think when it comes to sustainability, Mr. Tufaha has made a great presentation. Mr. Walsh has talked a lot about it, so the data and the challenges I think are clear now. I want to comply. How can I comply? You are asking me for some things that are not achievable. There is not enough SAF. You have CORSIA, and then for the offsets, and then you are putting some other regulatory procedures in play that's very confusing and, to say the least, very challenging for airlines to abide by. I was here 2018, 2019, we were talking about SAF. I came back 5 or 6 years later, and we're still having the exact same conversation. And from my side, it became a little bit more complicated. So where do we go from here? I think the answer is we have to, look into it more. It's good that we have a platform like the AACO to advocate for the airlines and also IATA, because it's very challenging. And some regulatory entities are using more of the stick approach than the carrot approach, and I don't think this is beneficial for the industry, and it's all falling on the shoulders of the airlines. And guess if the cost of operation goes up, where is it going to come out of whose pocket? It's going to come out of the passenger's pocket in the end.
So you're complying now. How much is it going to cost you in the next year? How much is it, the actual cost?
We are still looking at the numbers because we are expanding our fleet. So we are looking at the numbers thoroughly, and it's going to be, if it's not clear now what's happening, I cannot give you a ballpark figure. We need to look into it and see what's going to happen in the near future.
Thank you. Ghaith, what's it going to cost you?
No, I mean, first of all, I don't know. But definitely we want to comply because, as a human being, you want to take care of the environments. And I think in the airline industry, we always did well as far as the environment is concerned because, we have more efficient engine, blah, 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 all of that. But this is a joke, actually, listening to our colleagues who spoke here. It's a joke because, again, our big brother are not acting the role that they should be and honoring their own commitments. And every, whatever organization comes with their own, or whatever government body, they come with their own rules. And it's a joke, because in the end of the day, you know, if it's going to really cost us, as Mr. Walsh said, 8% of the, or somebody said that 8% of the of our cost will come from complying with the environment, and we are only making 6% as the whole industry, we will be in loss. And it is because the big brother, again, these governments, they are not honoring what their commitment is and what they give us direction. So it's very confusing, and it's really, if you want to live up to the standard as a human being, I am ashamed that all of these governments are not doing what they committed to do, and they are giving us more confusion to exactly what is our cost. And this is, as a challenge for the airline, in my opinion, it is the biggest challenge. Because, you know, since every time, the government will always tax the airline, because it's very simple, because we are one body, you know, it's very easy to target. So in case of a challenge, for me, the challenge that the governments can just put levy cost to us and tax us anytime they wish they can, is a bigger challenge than even the challenge we discussed about the supply chain, because this will continue to appear in a different shape, because these other problems might be resolved soon. But this one will continue to go. They will always target us. Sorry, that's my opinion.
No, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate you. Adel, and then we'll go to Ourania. Just tell, you know, how do you see it? How do you see it as this cost? I mean, it's an essential thing. Ghaith, obviously talk to it. What's your thought?
So for me, I think a colleague CEO called me about a couple of weeks ago. He says, I'm doing my budgets. I don't know whether I should take 100 million for 2026 or 200 million provision for this. What do you think? I said, well, it's the scenario of what Captain Ahmed just described. We're living in an era with this SAF issue of, if you can't convince them, confuse them. So we at the industry are confused. I am not quite sure why the people who sell us oil can't produce a clean oil for us to buy at a reasonable price and just operate. And I'm not also sure all this amount of massive money that we're talking about, what will happen to it? Where it's going to go?
That's the problem.
Right? A finger in the air, we just charge you this. Where is it going to go? How will it help environment? Right? It reminds me of a joke of that Scandinavian guy. Some of you may have seen it on TikTok. Says, my mom used to tell me when I was a kid, right? Eat all your food, because you don't know there are people in Africa are dying from hunger. So I ate all my food. I'm very heavy and fat now. I'm not quite sure how did it help Africa. Right? And this is the scenario we live in. So personally, I think we all want to be responsible as an airline. We want to make sure we comply with whatever it helps the world to be a cleaner and a better place. I think the people who gives us the oil and the government needs to tell us this is how, and this is what you put in your aircraft. Like they did it a long time ago with cars. I said, you need to put lead fuel in the cars, and therefore the manufacturer will only produce cars that take this type of fuel. And we all then had to apply and use it. Then electrical car came, and we'll buy it and use it. So something similar needs to be done, because here a good example, 6 years, you lived it, you left, you came back, nothing has changed. Is it serious?
Okay, thank you, Adel. And it is serious because it is going to affect the industry's competitiveness, you know, to a lesser or greater degree. Perhaps the carriers in the Arab world, the Middle East, and Africa, and India maybe, etc., and Asia maybe, might feel it later than Europe. So, Ourania, go on.
Europe is definitely feeling it. So we've done the maths. So we have a Destination 2050 roadmap, which is a bit along the lines of what you've heard from AACO here today. So 55% of the road to net zero is SAF, 27 is new aircraft and engine technology, ATM, so better operations, airspace operations around 6%, and the rest is economic measures such as EU ETS. When we did the maths back in 2023, the premium cost of transitioning to net zero, so above the business as usual scenario, was around 800 billion euros. We did the maths again and published it in February this year, so a few months ago, and that cost has increased by another 500 billion. We are at 1.3 trillion. I'm a law graduate. I had to Google what a trillion is. It's about as long as my last name, okay? So it's a big number. It's pretty long. And all that cost is being passed on, as you said, to the industry, and ultimately, in the airline business model, to the passenger, because airlines have magically managed to create a business model where we sit in the middle and try to internalize all those costs and play with our margins in order to compete with each other. So there's, I think, a question we should all ask ourselves about, is that model a good thing moving forward, and should we not start passing on some charges to somebody else directly? Why is it that an airline should pay for passenger claims when in fact it's the ATM guys who don't manage to get me where I need to be, or the airport, or whoever? Why am I that little focal point? The other thing is, I agree with you that people should just decide what we should do and just come out straight and say it. Personally, I'm in favor of a global system, and I've heard all about the teething problems of CORSIA. I think there's always comfort in other people's misfortune. You might have read in the news that IMO, the maritime sector, didn't manage to come up with a better global system, and so at least we are making some kind of progress. Our system still exists. We survived this assembly, and we are still having a global system that, yes, doesn't function as we would have liked to, but is in place. And then you have the problem of governments who compete between themselves in order to have the fanciest, most creative, most amazing, forward-looking policies. And unfortunately, that is a place where the EU leads, for sure. And what we have is a sticks policy, as someone was saying earlier. So we just have an obligation on fuel suppliers to bring blended SAF to an airport or face a penalty, which absolutely gets passed on to me. They tell me to my face, the fuel suppliers, that I'm charging you the penalty, Rania. And then you also have an obligation on airlines to fuel at every airport they are at. Whether there is SAF in there or not doesn't matter. And the reality of that SAF market in Europe this year, it started in January, the obligation, we're now in November. The reality is that we are making the middleman very, very rich, because I've had a lot of SAF producers come to my office very angry that my CEOs are questioning the availability of SAF and the competitiveness of the SAF market in Europe. And in fact, when we do the numbers, these guys have very low prices because they overproduced and arrived too early to the market. And I'm paying up to 2,000 euros premium per ton for something which might not even have actual SAF in it, because geography matters. You don't have it at all airports. The price is different if you if you tanker in the center of Athens or if you go to the north of Greece or an island. So this is not a functioning market. So if there's one lesson learned from Europe, is that mandates alone do not make a functioning market. And if you want to get there, if you have this ambition of decarbonizing with SAF, then it's going to take courageous governments, as you were saying earlier, Big Brother putting their money where their policy is, and actually helping de-risk investments, incentivize investments, and fundamentally, for an airline, help bridge that price gap. And I think collectively we have some education work to do there, because there's something really wrong when you have a price tag of 1.3 trillion, that's as long as my last name, and people still think the polluter is not paying, and they tax me. Plus, on top of my SAF bill, I pay ETS, I pay for emissions as well, and even there people think I'm not paying enough and I should pay more. So collectively, we've not done a good job educating our big brothers, as you call them, about what this industry already pays, and it pays a lot. In Europe, it pays everything as an airline. And what does it bring? We bring 4% of EU GDP, just aviation, connectivity. And why it's a bad idea to continue to test the limits of elasticity, because at some point, flying will simply be not accessible for Europe. And to close, there's a cynical part of me who thinks that EU policy is probably good for you guys, right? Because let's be honest, it's about 15% more expensive to fly via European hub than outside of Europe. And people still fly. They just choose to go somewhere else. Even my daughter has realized that if you fly with a non-EU carrier, it's just cheaper. Let's fly with them via non-EU hub. So, okay, there's always, you know, someone's misfortune is someone else's opportunity. There's also that. So, in that case, I would hope for Europe to take a more global perspective to its policies.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ourania. Thank you, Ourania. Well, I mean, we talked beforehand, and, you know, we had this interesting Ben Smith, which is CEO of Air France KLM, Carsten Spohr, the CEO of Lufthansa, got together. I don't think, Jens, you can tell me, I don't think I've ever seen them do a joint press event or press conference or interview before, bemoaning the disparity between their ability to grow, their cost of, you know, cost of SAF, etc., compared to competitors, particularly pointing at the Gulf carriers. So where's this coming from? Is this, we've heard this before, but they're obviously feeling the pain. They can't do what they want to do, or they can't, or they see Europe leaving the way, leaving the door open.
I can make it a more general sentiment in my organization, because my organization is 17 groups, 36 airlines. Low-costers are also in there, so it's a bigger variety of business models. But fundamentally, what it comes down to is that all the rules that EU has created, all the obligations, are basically making Europe way more expensive as a destination. They're making it way more expensive as a hub, and they're making European carriers more expensive than others. So the impact seems to be, the data is showing that Europeans lose market share, people still travel, they just tend to go somewhere else with someone else via a different hub. And that is felt across the line. I mean, you will notice Ryanair, who starts flying a lot more outside of Europe, right? There's a price cost to that as well. There's a logic to it. It's the SAF, it's also the airport charges, it's all of that. I mean, Europe is pricing itself out of a market.
Abdul wants to make a point. Abdul, please.
Honestly, I don't understand the mindset of saying that since we are being penalized by our governments, then in order to create a level playing field, let everybody else be penalized similar to us. This is a reverse psychology issue? I don't know. The problem doesn't lie with airlines investing in an opportunity that was created by the ill-conceived policies of governments in another region. So if the European governments decided we will make it extremely difficult to have an airline in Europe, and other airlines take advantage of that, think of it, you know, the reverse. Imagine if all the policies of Europe are being done actually in the Arab world and not in Europe. What would Lufthansa, Air France, and the others do? They will take advantage of that. And of course, there will be some sort of opportunities that will be invested in by those airlines. The problem doesn't lie in this neither carbon leakage or competitive disadvantage. The problem is in the policies which are actually creating this situation. We do not support these policies. And what we are saying, all of us, all airlines, let's not get fragmented on who is benefiting from what. Let's go and attack the source of the problem. The policies of trying to be to have the high moral ground without actual benefit to the environment should be attacked. This should not go on. And this is why I believe, with all due respect to Ben Smith and Carsten, I think they are, they are talking to the wrong audience. They should talk to their governments, not to the other airlines.
Well, they probably are, but
they are,
thank you, Abdul. Ourania?
And I think we absolutely agree, as organizations and as individuals. The A3 request is not to make it more expensive for everybody. The A3 request is to bring the cost down, bring down the cost of SAF, bring down the cost of ETS. Just be realistic and stop thinking that Europe on its own, on the planet, can save the planet and can put forward these kinds of policies. The market is not Europe, the market is the globe, the world. And that is the perspective we're trying to do. And then you will have to ask the two gentlemen about their own thoughts directly. But as A4E, in my organization, when you put all these gentlemen around the table, so all 17 of them, my mandate, my job is to bring down the cost of SAF and bring down the cost of ETS, to bring down the cost of Europe. Just to help you understand where I'm at, my cost of doing business, just for my members, the 17 groups, the 36 airlines I represent, has tripled in 10 years. It is 15.5 billion euros in 2024 and will almost double again by 2030 to 27.5 billion euros because of SAF, because of emissions trading, because of passenger rights, because of taxes, because of non-transparency of airport charges, to bring us to your next favorite topic. So all of these things, that the cost of regulation and the inefficiency or the lack of courage, if I can be so blunt, of fixing airspace as well to help limit those inefficiencies is what it's costing the passenger, European connectivity.
Ghaith, did you want to comment? And while we're commenting, can we have we're going to go to the final set of Slidos. Let's get the last one up. But Ghaith, did you want to, what's your thought in listening to Ourania there?
No, Ourania, it's music to my ears. This is exactly what I was talking about, that our biggest challenge in the future, becoming like Europe, the whole globe become like Europe. That will kill our airlines. So
just say that again, because I just missed it, because
if the whole world aviation market becomes like Europe, so that will be a big disaster.
Right. Okay.
Learn from our mistakes.
Well, you could do a learning round table. We'll have a round table first of all about the supply chain, then a round table about how not to repeat the mistakes of a market, which is.
But I really have to say thank you to this lady. She's very brave. She said it as it is, and I will be very proud to be part of your members.
Okay, well, thank you. Hooray, hooray, thank you. Hooray for that. So we've got the question 5, which is, coming back to that sort of the net zero ambition. And Willie and I are to talk a lot about this in Delhi and over the course of this year. So the group, with only 52 of you voting, it's going up. So do you believe that net zero emissions is achievable by 2050? So broadly speaking, 3/4 say it's not going to be tough. Camille, have you voted? You're thinking? I've never known you think so slowly. Let's go to question 6. So the room thinks it's not. So why? We know the buckets. Infrastructure, technology is not advancing fast enough. It's going to be SAF, right? Let's see, 6. I mean, they're all needed. That's what, as well as offsets, of course. But we're taking these 3 buckets. Probably not too surprising is so will we be forced to revisit the 2050 goal? What's your thoughts from a CEO point of view? Or do you want to defer it to Willie?
Yeah, Willie can speak.
I won't be doing. I will not be working in the industry at 2050.
Oh, that's
so
a
Willie is better qualified.
You can't make all these millions in the industry and then say, "Oh, somebody else can sort it out." That's not fair. You've got to take your bit now. Pay the price now. No, he's not going to. Pay for it now. Willie, are we going to be forced? Well, we asked the question in the AGM, and I know you're thinking about it, but.
So I won't be working in the industry in 2050 either. But I think we're at a point where it is a serious question that needs to be asked. I still believe technically it's possible. Is it going to be, when you add in everything, the cost, the technology, the desire, the support that we're getting from governments, the support that we're getting from other key players, I don't see sufficient action on the part of everybody else. And I think it's wrong to expect that the airline industry delivers on behalf of this wider aviation industry who are all saying they're committed to net zero. Like, it does upset me when I hear airports saying we're committed to net zero in 2050. OEMs, we're committed to net zero in 2050. What they're not saying is we're committed provided the airline industry pays. And we can't afford it on our own. It's just not going to be possible. So I think there has to be a moment of awakening when everybody recognises they've got a place to play in this. And governments, you know, I agree with the panel. You know, the actions of governments, particularly in Europe so far, is just making it more difficult. Yeah. Issuing mandates to buy a product that doesn't exist and penalising us as a result of that is no way to address the environmental challenge. So, you know, I still hope that we can do it, but every day that passes, I think I'm being more and more realistic that the challenge is getting much bigger and much more expensive.
I would agree. I think the recipe and the ingredients that we're throwing in the pot right now are not working. And then I remain an optimist because humans are capable of amazing innovations out of nowhere. You and I all started off without a mobile phone. We didn't even have a computer, I would remind you, or a laptop at some point. And suddenly all of that has become normality today in under 10 years. So you can go to 18 months innovation cycles like some sectors do in life. We are capable of many different things. But today's ingredients, today's incentives or penalties, there are no incentives right now, that's not going to get us there. That just demotivates everybody and spends our good vibes blaming each other. So for sure the recipe needs to change.
When's your next board meeting, Willie?
I think it's the 5th of December.
Will it be on the agenda?
Oh yeah, no, it's discussed all the time. You know, as I said, I think people genuinely want to do what's right for the environment and for the future. But it's becoming more and more challenging, particularly in the face of inaction on the part of others.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ourania. Let's just go to the final question. We've only got a few minutes, so we will be wrapping up quite shortly. Are we okay, Abdulla? I've got the countdown clock is in the red, but whatever. So the cost of sustainability, because this is where we look at it as businesses and we say, what's it going to do if we don't get it right, whatever right is? So do you believe the cost of sustainability, with no timeline here, will it suppress growth and hurt the economy and job creation? Or will it not affect growth, providing it applies to everybody equally around the world on that level playing field that we know doesn't exist and won't exist? So will this issue, this challenge, affect the actual number of people that are traveling because either the price goes up, suppressing demand, etc.? What are we saying? Yeah, pretty there. 2/3 saying that it will. Is that a scenario you envisage? You know, you fly people for a living. Is it a scenario that you could ever envisage that this challenge is going to actually force somehow the business to contract?
It depends on how it's going to be implemented, the process of the implementation, because usually the devil is in the details. So you have SAF, next step, maybe we'll be talking about eSAF. 5 years, we'll be sitting here talking about AI SAF. So
AI SAF, I like that. I mean, you've invented something pretty funky there, Adel.
So I think the devil is in the details. Implementation is very crucial. Like Mr. Tufaha said, if you want to level the playing field and this is the only purpose, it will affect the outcome. But if you want to play it fairly, you need to get your act together. You need to have a clear mandate so people who have good intentions and want to abide by it are able to.
But do you sort of sit down with your big governments or your leaders and even in your C-suites and say, if we don't get this right, this is actually something bad could happen in terms of our business as airlines? Do you ever sort of envisage that, Ghaith?
No, I cannot envision because, you know, I believe in human race. You know, we always live up to the challenge and we do the right thing. So I think aviation and travel is such an important part of human race, life, and we will find a solution for this. It might hinder the growth, it might break some airline, but eventually I think we will do the right thing, because we always do.
But the right thing is the right thing for economies, the right thing for populations, but also the right thing for the climate and the planet.
For sure. I mean, we have to. We have that obligation. And we have to take care of our environment like we take care of our home, like we take care of our family. So we have to. But this is not going to break the airline industry, for sure.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
Far from it.
Far from it. You are so strong. That's good. Adel. Thank you, Ghaith.
Yeah, and I agree that the industry will continue to work and the demand will continue to be increasing as the world population will increase. It is a global village today, the world. And most of people don't live at home. They live in somebody else's village and homes and somewhere else. And therefore, the connectivity will continue and the need to travel will continue. A lot of unknown in there. Will it go up in terms of cost if we really achieve what we want to achieve? And if it does, it depends at the time. And because nobody has got the clarity of what would be the multiple cost increase into this. Answers would be a finger in the air. The technology will allow us to have, I know, again, all the negative things we said about OEMs, the positive, they know they're investing a lot of money trying to develop better engines and do things that achieves what we need to achieve. And I think, as probably said earlier, with everybody working together, I'm sure we will find a solution. What will be the solutions, we don't know at this stage. I believe that the market will continue growing whatever we do, because people now cannot stop traveling.
Oh, Abdul, sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't usually, it's not disagreeing with Adel. There is a solution. Actually, the solution is very simple. Number one, since Europe has taken the high moral grounds, let them do Cesar. They have been talking about Cesar for 30 years. Cesar will bring down emissions, carbon CO2
Single European
by 10%, just by implementing a political decision which politically is not being implemented. I mean, it's easy to implement it, technically. Number two, fuel suppliers have been making tons of money for more than a century now. Let them invest in the production of SAF. This is another solution. Why is it that a new product that is a derivative of something they are already doing, why is it the whole investment needs to be passed on to the customer? Let me ask you a question. I have sold my 2 cars with normal engines and bought 2 electric cars. And both of them actually are almost 1/3 of the price of my previous cars. Now, what has happened there? Because I'm getting greener, I'm getting rewarded, and the market is rewarding me actually, because people who have invested, who have the money to invest in this new technology, have invested in it, and they have produced cars which are cleaner, simple, all right? And the ones who are unable to do that, they will go out of the market. So the second solution is with the suppliers. Invest from the money that you have accumulated over a century, more than a century. The third one, which is again very easy to do, don't confuse airlines. Don't duplicate measures. There is a global agreement. That global agreement has said that, and by the way, all the governments of the world agreed to that global solution. Comply, respect it. Don't try to say, no, we will do better.
But Abdul, that rabbit is out of the hat.
I'm sorry?
That's not going to happen, is it? We're
No,
not going to go back to one global.
Why not? Why not? My question is why not? Because, and okay, there is an easier way. Let me, I spoke about it, I'm sorry to take a bit of time of you. There is an easier way. Now, we are buying stuff, right? Ourania, your airlines, our airlines, your airlines buy it for both EU ETS and Refuel EU. We buy it under Refuel EU. Many airlines are buying it under Refuel EU. European airlines are exempt from CORSIA within the EU airspace because they already, offset their emissions under the Refuel EU by buying SAF. But the standards of SAF in the EU are different than the standards under CORSIA. So other airlines of the world will need to buy offset certificates for the SAF they have reduced for the emissions they have emissions they have reduced when they bought European SAF. Now the problem is you have reduced emissions, but CORSIA doesn't recognize the standards of EU SAF. So you need to buy carbon certificates for the same emissions you have reduced. Now, what is the solution? Simple. If I produce something which is minus 10% in carbon intensity and I can get the credit, my sovereign state recognize it, let other states recognize that I have reduced emissions. Again, the objective, which I have been preaching that for a long period of time, the objective is reducing emissions. The objective is not to create a market for SAF or not to create a market for eSAF. If I stop flying, I have reduced emissions, right, down to zero. So why should you care as a government if I buy something that reduces my emissions and my government agrees to it and gives me a certificate that I have reduced emissions? Why should you not recognize it? And so just to put it, simple, you don't want to change the rules? Don't. You're sovereign, fine, we respect that. But respect sovereignty of others as well. And recognize that the standards may differ from one country to the other, and then recognize that we will all agree to recognize the standards that are approved by another regulator as reducing emissions. Simple. Then we will actually make it much simpler for airlines to comply and not to duplicate costs.
Thank you, Abdul. Thank you for that. Ghaith, you're grabbing the microphone. You just love that microphone.
No. I just have a new idea. Why don't we have under IATA a clearing house for emissions? So, like you have a clearing house for ticket sales.
Did you tell Willie you were going to suggest that?
No, it just came to my mind. So we should do that.
IATA has a SAF registry. Actually, they were. They had the initiative, which is absolutely great, of a SAF registry whereby you can register. I mean, Willie can talk better about it than me. The problem is that recognized by the governments? This is another issue. This is where, so to you, Willie.
Just to say, on the SAF registry, the intention there was so we created it to provide it then free of charge to governments to use. So in other words, we said, we're not going to wait around for you guys to produce this. So we'll do it for you. We'll give it to you. We want AACO to take it. Exactly then, as Kate said, that you have a common registry where everybody can file their SAF production and how it was produced, and have common recognition of the benefit that's achieved from that, so as that we avoid all of this duplication of measurements that are going on.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you.
Yeah, just another aspect. I would like to say that well, globally, the growth of air transport will not be affected. It may be affected for a short term, but for a longer term, medium term, it will, keep the same rate of growth after. What may be affected could be the short distances, like we are seeing in Europe for the domestic traffic, but the international will not be, and the growth will continue. Thank you.
No, thank you for that observation. Thank you very much. I think we have to come, Abdul, I think we've got to get to the last word. Is that right? Yeah, he's giving me the tea. Well, we're over time, but, you know, this is important, right? So, Ourania, I'm just going to say, we're going to be in Doha in about a year's time if we're invited, and that'll be, you know, we've the Arab carriers, the challenge perhaps, but just give us your perspective. In a year's time, what's going to have changed? Not everything, not the world, but just one thing that you, maybe what you hope that your organization, and I'll ask all of you, what do you hope will have changed for the better in the next year?
From a European perspective, which is all I can speak about, a reality check. So that there is a clear understanding among governments that what we have in place in Europe today is not working and is not getting us to where we want to be, or the price to pay to get there is too high, and that we have seen the first changes in the system. We expect tomorrow a publication of a new policy from the European Union, which is about accelerating affordable SAF and accelerating the rollout of new technology, aircraft engine, ATM. So I hope to see by then some more transparency in the SAF market and a bit more, you know, friendly governments, a few more easier conversations.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate 10 being good, 1 being low, but that you're going to succeed?
It's Europe. We take forever. There's 27 of us. So 5. Let me just sit in the middle, which is already progress in my
5?
world. Yeah.
I think your CEO is wanting you up higher than that when he was.
They want it at 20, and so do I, but
yeah.
5.
Adel, in a year's time, what do you hope will be the thing that changes, something that moves the needle for you? What do you hope will happen?
I just hope that we be able to do what we paid to do, manage an air transport business, carry the passenger and talk about our customers, which we have not talked about. We talked about how we manage the oil industry and how we manage the engine industry. I just want to talk about customers. It's forgotten.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Ghaith, what do you hope?
No, I hope, I'm a very simple man. I hope the prosperity that we currently see in the business continue, and hopefully these problems, we will find solution from it, because wherever there is prosperity, there is always opportunity to build new bridges and solve problems.
Okay, nicely put, very well put. Captain Adel.
World peace. Oh, that's a beauty pageant answer.
I knew we were going to get world peace in there somewhere.
No, all of the above. And I'm hoping that we find a breakthrough when it comes to solutions for SAF. I also hope that the business continues to prosper, because like my colleague here said, Mr. Ghaith, that if prosperity continues, there is always going to be a solution. There's always going to be optimism about the industry. And also I hope that the OEM problems get ironed out in the next year or so. We are hearing good news from engine manufacturers about the previous problems, that things are happening in the pipeline and they should be over within the next 2 years.
Thank you, well said. Everybody, thank you for your contributions from the floor. Please thank the panel very much. Thank you very much. And I think my duty now is to hand back to the chair, Chair Adu. Is that right? Thank you, Adel. I'm handing back to you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mark, and the esteemed panelists for a truly engaging and insightful discussion. Before inviting all of you to join us for lunch, which will be served on the outdoor terrace of this ballroom, I would like to note that the third working session is closed for AACO member only. With that, allow me to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to our partner airlines, industry partners, honored guests, and media representatives for your presence today. I also look forward to seeing you again at the closing dinner tonight, which will be held at the historic Shella archaeological site. I kindly ask everyone to gather in the hotel lobby at 7 p.m. to depart for the event. And finally, do not miss the special trip we have organized tomorrow to the city of Tangier. Departure to train station will be at 9 o'clock in the morning. Please be in the lobby at 8:30. Dear members, we request you to return to this ballroom at what, 3 o'clock?
3, but still there is 1 point.
Yes. We have the press and the press conference at 4:45. And now I will hand over to Abdulla.
Mr. Chairman, since everybody is in the room, so I will turn to Igler so that we can move quickly. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you wholeheartedly for everything that you and your team have done to make this AGM an exemplary one. We've seen the joint, panel went overtime almost, like an hour. And thank you very much, Mark and the panelists for an excellent and actually exciting discussion. Now, without any further ado, on behalf of AACO, I would like to give you a memento commemorating this AGM, and I would like that if anybody wishes to take pictures of that memento being delivered to the chairman of the AGM.
Maybe to stay in the subject, why don't we offer SAF certificates in the future?
Well, actually, the production of this memento is net zero. Okay. Now, please join us for lunch, which is outside, where we had the opening yesterday. And members only, come back please at 3 sharp for the closed session. Thank you very much.